you can create the structure and the systems to hold your vision, but you also need to face yourself, your internal challenges, and unhealthy attachments in order to be able to have the capacity to sustain and expand your vision. Okay, so it has been about 2 months of me sharing these building in public videos, which is kind of insane because one, 2 months went by like pretty fast. And then two, as someone who had very little to zero, like very basic knowledge of how to edit videos, and at the beginning of this was spending like an absurd amount of time just putting basic video clips together. I feel that I've come a long way and have now gotten curious about other like ways that I can format the videos and like mix things up a little bit. I've added music now, which is something I had no idea that I would be be able to know how to do. So yeah. Uh and I guess it should be like I don't know, looking back now, I'm like, I guess I could have assumed that eventually I would like start doing more with these videos. It wouldn't just be like basic video style. That's not to say that like here and into the near future, it's gonna become like professional quality because I'm certainly obviously not a professional videographer. I'm still recording humbly on my computer using Zoom. Um, but I do think that I'm probably gonna mix it up a little bit. So me recording every single day or multiple times a week, I have realized that that doesn't quite, I'm not able to do it quite consistently for a variety of reasons. Saturdays seem to be like today's a Saturday, seems to be like the most consistent day that I'm able to sit and record. So I think what I might end up doing is from time to time, recording videos throughout the week, but primarily I think I'm going to start doing videos on Saturdays. Like maybe in the beginning, like recaps of the week, things that I did, things that I learned, and then followed by just thoughts about things relating to building, dreams, and creating and all of that. So, for those of you who have been watching, I started with 0 subscribers. Now I have like a whole six, which does not sound like a whole lot. But if you think about six people in a room who show up every single week to hear a person share and talk, that's actually quite impressive. Like a lot of people don't even have like two people who show up in a room all the time or, regularly to listen to them talk about things that they care about. Um, so yeah, thank you so much for those who have subscribed. Thank you also to those who have watched the videos and come across this. I have no idea how you are doing that. I'm assuming it must be an algorithm thing, but happy you're here. And feel free to subscribe if you like the content. So recap. Um, what did I do this week? Lots of things. My week was busy on two fronts. I, outside of Reverb Root, have a marketing consulting company. That's been going well. I've landed two new clients that have kept me busy. On the Reverb Root side, I have been working on editing interviews. I'm working on that today, at least getting two interviews published, posted on our website as well as here on YouTube. So maybe by the time Monday comes around, I'll actually have it linked, like the two linked somewhere here, or at least in like the description. This week, I did not do as much tangible, productive, like output work, external work. A lot of the work was internal, and that is going to be the main crux of this video. Um, I have spent the last year building out the foundation, like the legal structure, the accounting structure, like the marketing, the content like structure processes and all of that stuff. Basically, like what I've talked about the last couple of weeks, the container to hold the vision of Reverb Root. Um, so that it's scalable and is able to easily, or at least more easily, welcome in people as the company grows and I have a team and all of that. Um, what I have not done so much, and I think that this is the part that a lot of people don't talk about when it comes to building in public, is the internal aspect of building, of pursuing anything. It's to some extent, I feel like a vision, when you have a vision, a dream, you kind of have to build the external act, like part of it first, like the foundational pieces, so that your vision has something to stand on. But in order for you to have the capacity to hold it and to expand it, you have to also do the internal work as the person building it. And that is the point I think that I am at right now. I have found, I mean, I've done a lot of internal work, but now I feel like I'm feeling led to go even deeper. And we're talking about in terms of things like worthiness. These are things that I thought I had tackled, and I'm realizing that it's an upward spiral of evolution. You're going to hit the ring the same, like you're going to hit the same issue, but it's going to be from like a different angle or slightly different as you continue going up on your journey. So for me, I've been working through worthiness. I have been working through coming to terms with the ancestral, how do I put it? The ancestral beliefs that I have carried up until this point. Um, I'm thinking and working through my ability to share my vision and be really solid in it, and putting my work and myself out there. I mean, these videos, y'all, these videos have been a really big step in that. But my ability to share my vision and to view it as I have this vision, but I am separate from it. My value is not attached to this vision. I am building something that I'm offering to the world. Um, and I am, yes, embodying what it is, but I am not it, if that makes sense. And so I think even seeing that, reframing my view of that as I'm sharing my vision as an offering to the world, not as a validation of who I am, at my core. That is something that I thought that I'd worked through, but I'm realizing that there's still more work to do with that. And I think this is probably a common thing that people deal with, because when you have built something from quite literally just your mind and put it out into the world, it becomes in a lot of ways like your baby. Like you have pieced it together in a way that you have likely never pieced something together before. So you know, and there's an emotional tie to it. And it is very easy to see the thing that you've built and see it as an extension of yourself. In like a very toxic, unhealthy way. And so I'm trying to do all of the internal work of worthiness and the ancestral kind of beliefs that I've carried and all of those things, and not tying my value and myself to my vision so that as it grows and expands, I have the capacity to hold it and I don't crumble under the self-imposed pressure um, of it all. And so I think that this is something important, that other people, I hope that other people will think about as I'm talking about it. I am learning that your capacity of your level of self-belief, your capacity to hold your vision, but still keep it separate from your core value, and your ability to untether yourself from illusions and fears and anxieties and limiting beliefs, quite literally can free yourself and future generations, both within your own lineage, but also within your community and in the world. As I'm unpacking all of these things within myself, I've been thinking a lot about my family history, my ancestral history. And especially, I think this is really important, especially for those of us who come from communities and lineages that have been colonized and oppressed historically. Um, there is each generation evolves, but also still, and like there's a level of um, liberation that each has acquired and claimed for themselves. Um, but there's like we are at a point where the work like there's work for us to do. What is the liberation that is for us? When I think about my family, of people who were enslaved, liberation for those who were newly freed or got their freedom. Um, Liberation for them was the ability to be paid for their work, the ability, like more freedom of movement than they had before. I think about my parents, generation before me, that was access to um, career and resources. And so now I'm thinking about what does that look like for me, and how can I acquire that liberation for myself and then take it further so that those who come after, whether I have children in the future or don't, those who come after, whether related or not, will be able to take that and then move even further. And I think for me, um, my thoughts on liberation, what that looks like for me and my generation, I think it's psychological liberation. This liberation, in terms of, yes, that self-worthiness, the removing that scarcity mindset, um, removing core, like your personal value from productivity, things like that, so much more. Um, and so I think that there, is a lot that needs to be done there, and that's a lot of internal work. We are at a really critical point in history. Um, I think it's a really pivotal point, and I don't think we'll realize just how pivotal it is until we've gotten some years from this. I personally feel like there was something that switched, like there was a before COVID and an after COVID, and everything that's happened after COVID has been like a domino effect in a way that I have personally never felt um, in my lifetime. And I would suspect that other people probably feel the same way. And if we know that this is a time period where old systems are falling, like there need to be new systems and infrastructures and ideas and people to come forward who are going to help bring about liberation on individual, communal, global scale. Um, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. And it can't just be work that's external. It has to be the internal work. Like that has to also be addressed. And so I talk about this in Dream Lab. This is part of like my framework methodology of not just talking about the external blocks of you know, resource gaps, network gaps, things like that. But there's a real internal aspect block that needs to be addressed when we are building these new systems, communities, ways of living and moving culture, that will be critical for us as we move forward beyond what's happening right now. If a person can address the internal blocks, that is like half the battle. I really do believe. Because if you don't address it, you're going to end up just sabotaging, like sabotaging, hitting roadblock after roadblock if you're not dealing with that. And I have been honing my craft for the better part of nearly 10 years, um, and dealing a little bit with the internal of like, oh, I'm nervous to put my work out there. Ooh, I'm nervous to reach out to this person, or ooh, I'm feeling overwhelmed and like I've dealt with those little things, but these major things to really be able to help hold the capacity is something that I think that I and other people who are building, that's going to be something that needs to be addressed. Um, I also think that people do not realize the impact of um, words, actions, even the smallest of actions. I really, really, really need people to understand that your level of self-belief will quite literally free future generations. Your level of self-belief in your ideas, in your ability to bring out your ideas, bring them about, even if you in spite of uncertainty, will quite literally free generations. I think that there's some ancestral work that we have to carry forward, especially for those specifically for those of us who are from oppressed, historically oppressed communities. And yeah, I think that self-belief and community, those two things will absolutely be the key. As I'm dealing, that's the other thing. Like, so I acknowledge that me dealing with internal challenges and blocks and limiting beliefs and all of this stuff, like, it's not going to just be something that gets dealt with in a month and then we're great. It's going to be alongside the external foundational work that I'm doing. Um, but those two together expand a person's capacity, I believe. Um, yeah, so I am all in all working on embracing vulnerability, facing my fears head on instead of avoiding them, um, continuing to prioritize patience and really getting clear about my priorities, focusing on balance, both emotional, but also with my work and my personal life, and really continuing to be devoted to my craft. Um, Devotion to craft, devotion to craft, devotion to craft. I think a lot of times when people see people who come out and all of a sudden, their work is really just like out and about and everywhere. There's this belief that, oh, they just came from nowhere, like came out of nowhere. But there's a lot of time and effort and at time tears um, that is involved to really create something that is beautiful and memorable and that is has this like longevity of relevance. And so, I'm very much trying to focus on process goals as opposed to outcome goals. I can't control outcomes. Like I can do the work, which is why I'm putting emphasis on process goals, but I can't control the outcome. Um, And so that's what I'm focusing on too. Um, I've written this down. Let me see. This is another one. I have realized that my dreams are only as powerful as the action that I take to bring them forth. A person can create all the plans, all of the come up with all the research and all of that stuff, all the theories. But if you are not willing to step out and have the courage to put your work out there, to present your vision, your ideas, um, to the public, and not even just like presenting the ideas, but just taking the other actions that you know that you need to, that maybe you've been avoiding a little bit. Um, the dream division, you're not giving it space to grow. There's no oxygen for it to grow if it's just huddled under, within, next to you. You need to actually put it out. This month, next month, I am very much, well, no, by the time you get this, this will be March. March, I am focused on really making decisive choices. Um, when you have an abundance of choices, it is very easy to get stuck in paralysis by analysis. I am, more than anything, though, I think I am working on releasing myself from unhealthy attachments. Um, and for the longest, I have thought unhealthy attachments in terms of like, oh, don't eat junk food, or oh, don't procrastinate, or oh, whatever. But I have realized that I also need to release myself from the unhealthy attachments of, again, limiting self-beliefs, um, of like fears and anxiety around really putting myself out there. So yeah, that's what I got. In summary, um, you can create the structure and the systems to hold your vision, but you also need to face yourself, your internal challenges, and unhealthy attachments in order to be able to have the capacity to sustain and expand your vision. If you do not have the capacity to expand and sustain, then it really cripples your vision. You have built something on somewhat of a shaky foundation. You've got the foundation of the external pieces of the legal, the accounting, the marketing, all of the things. But I think visions are meant to be expanded, especially visions that are meant to live beyond and impact beyond just yourself. I hope that you have the courage to face yourself, to look within, to figure out what are those limiting beliefs that you have. What are those pieces of yourself that you've been holding on to, that you've been avoiding facing. And I hope that you can do that and also build um, whatever it is that you're working on in public, securely within yourself, and not hold your value, um, not let your vision hold you, your value of yourself hostage, because that is very easy to do. It is very easy to say, my vision is me and I am my vision. And if my vision crumbles, then I crumble. It's a lie. It's not true. It's an illusion. And it is very much an unhealthy attachment. But a lot of us hold on to it. And I personally want my vision and what I'm building to be something that liberates me and those people who I don't even know. I want my vision to be something, I want Reverb Root to be something that expands beautifully and sustainably, and that quite literally impacts people. I think to be able to create something like that, um, clear vision, knowing what you want, but also having that flexibility and the vulnerability, embracing that in order to be able to bring it forth in a way that doesn't burn you up, um, as it grows and grows. So, yeah, that's it. Till next time.